Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to the wrong side because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Today's date, September 13th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means that we do only cite from reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, wherever extreme left, extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We provide nothing but the facts. At the same time, we do try to watch our professionalism and our language here, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, this is a special edition. The reason why it's a special edition because, well, more information came out. As you can probably see from the title of this in his own words, this is going to focus on a singular subject. The name Charlie Kirk would, if you've been under a rock or you just ignored social media and just the world in general, would have been known now as that person is no longer with us. That being said, more information did come out, and that we actually have some, I said we, but others have given their opinions. And I think that this opinion of mine needs to be said as well. But let's first start with the basics of where the Utah governor did speak with the FBI as far as obtaining a suspect.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
Tonight, after a manhunt that lasted just 33 hours, police say they've caught the suspect who assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, arrested for suspicion of aggravated murder and other charges. Authorities say his family turned him in.
A family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Law enforcement sources tell NBC News that family member was Robinson's own father, who contacted a family friend identified as a minister, and that's when local sheriffs were alerted. Robinson lives in Washington County, Utah, and is currently a student at Dixie Technical College, where he's in the electrical apprenticeship program.
Congratulations.
Video from 2021 shows Robinson reading a scholarship letter from Utah State University, which he attended for one semester.
$32,000.
Utah's governor says family members told them Robinson recently brought up Charlie Kirk's upcoming visit to the Utah Valley University's campus, saying he did not agree with him.
In the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had.
And tonight, police revealing more evidence uncovered in their investigation, including taunting inscriptions written on 3 unfired rounds they recovered. One of them reading, "Hey fascist, catch," followed by arrow symbols. Another with the lyrics of an anti-fascist song from Italy.
That's a piece of evidence that is not normal, and so it shows there was some kind of intent there to deliver a message.
Investigators also interviewed Robinson's roommate, who showed the messages they say Robinson wrote on the platform Discord, saying he needed to retrieve a rifle left behind.
A message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets.
Discord tonight saying it has found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. This morning, President Trump announcing the arrest.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody.
The head of Utah's DPS telling me their investigation is far from over.
Is it your belief that Robinson is the sole perpetrator in this case?
We are very confident that Robinson was the only shooter at this scene.
Authorities say Robinson arrived on campus earlier than initially thought at 8:29 a.m. wearing a T-shirt and shorts, only to leave and return in a different outfit, the same one seen in these enhanced photos, and then again later when authorities say Robinson ran and jumped off a nearby roof to escape. Authorities say video near the scene shows Robinson drove a Dodge Challenger to the campus. Today at the family home, a Challenger was seen parked in the driveway. Tonight, family, friends, and neighbors left stunned.
And I feel for his mom. I love Amber. She's a great mom, and he has a great dad.
All of it happening as Kirk's body arrived back in his home state of Arizona, flown on Air Force Two with Vice President Vance and Kirk's widow, Erica, seen waving to supporters as they left the airport. With a growing memorial for Kirk in Phoenix, this message tonight from the FBI director.
Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Morgan joins us now live. Authorities say they have their man, and the governor signaled early on what the punishment could be.
Yeah, Tom, the governor has stressed that the death penalty remains on the table here, and it does apply in cases of aggravated murder. As for tonight, Tyler Robinson remains inside this county jail being held without bail and should be formally charged on Tuesday.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Yes, the supposed shooter is now in custody. We will not go ahead and condemn him because there's this little thing called due process that, some people forget about. At the same time, yes, his family turned him in. Sometimes it be your own people. But the one thing I wanted to take away from this is that because what is going to be emphasized a lot, and we try here at How the Frack to maintain the line. And by the line, meaning that we report the news as it is. But you had those on the Fox News side, on Taco being on Fox and Friends, saying, the radicalized left, and they've always attacked us, and they've always been hyper violent and things of that nature. And now he's calling for the death penalty. So therefore, now the Utah governor's calling for the death penalty. They've always made it seem like the left has always been a problem. Yet the supposed shooter comes from a conservative family who is definitely pro-Trump, who is definitely pro-right, and he himself was considered a conservative. But if you believe Nick Fuentes and that crazy conspiracy group, they may be too far right. So that may suggest to me an internal struggle. But what was the big thing that a lot of them were saying? Oh, it had to be a person of color. It had to be a trans person. It had to be LGBTQ+. It had to be somebody who was disgruntled enough to decide on that day to go ahead and take that man's life. And yet, it's another white person. Amazing that whenever someone takes a shot at conservative figures, it's never their boogeyman. It's the person standing right next to them. It's the person listening to their speeches. It's the person who goes on social media and shares and reiterates and buys their merch and subscribes to everything that they do, giving their last penny to said group or person, only to find out that disgruntled person may be the one that leads to violence down the road. And yet, it's the same story. It's also the case of Melissa Horton, because again, some people do forget that an extremist right-winger portrayed himself as a law enforcement officer and decided to end the life of a Democratic politician and her husband. But you don't see the right condemning that same person. But in the case of Charlie Kirk, who is now might as well be a martyr, and the way some people act might as well be a saint, now all of a sudden there's violence, to which the president himself, which I can't believe I said that without throwing up in my mouth, Taco decided to give his comment as far as the statement on Charlie Kirk's death.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory.
So we can go ahead and just get past the bullshit. So it's amazing that out of that entire group of people, notice all right wing, all conservatives. Melissa Horton's name wasn't mentioned at all. And it is so crazy that he's going to say the radical left is the one calling for violence. That's interesting. Very interesting, because
God's name.
Here's the one thing that I've always said, and this is going to apply to Charlie Kirk as well as Taco. Your words will always outlive you, and your words will always define you long after you're gone. And it's interesting that Taco would turn around and say the left incite violence when there's this little thing called history and social media that would say, no, you might need to pick up a mirror and look at yourself.
Why in God's name would someone think attacking law enforcement and occupying the United States Capitol is the best way to show that you're right?
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. That will never happen with me. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will, but that was a disgrace. The third group, I'll be a little more violent. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
I heard he was a person that preferred me over others. No, not at all. No, I mean, not at all. No, that there's no blame. There's no anything.
The individuals in custody are suspected to have attempted to identify the home addresses of law enforcement officers in order to target them, made threats of violence intended to instigate a civil war, and engaged in planning and training for an operation to attack the Capitol building of Michigan and to kidnap government officials, including the governor of Michigan.
You have to see if it's a problem, right? People are entitled to say maybe it was a problem, maybe it
Because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. They want to take not me, but us down. And we can never let them do that. Somehow we find a way to win. Now is not the time to retreat. Now is the time to fight harder than ever before.
The problem is we need a party that's going to fight.
If you don't fight to save your country with everything you have, you're not going to have a country left. And we're going to have to fight much harder. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Thank you.
So that was just a couple of years. That was multiple times that Taco, on his way to the presidency, called for violence. Said in the olden days, "We carry you out." Made fun of special aided reporters. Had no problem telling about grabbing a woman in certain areas. Sat there and said that I could take somebody out in the middle of Times Square and nobody would do anything. And again, the January 6th, where he incited a group of pretty much terrorists to storm the Capitol to overturn an election. And what happened? The moment he got back into the presidency, he turned around and basically pardoned all of them. So it is amazing to me, really and truly amazing to me, that it's always the right that says, well, we can't be violent. And yet they are violent. The right says, well, we cannot let debate escalate to this level. But you stoked the fire. You lit the match. You poured gasoline on it and you watched it burn. And instead of you actually calling 911 to put out the fire, you went and got more gasoline. You went and got more matches. You got more wood. You kept stoking the fire because you benefited from it. Taco benefited from inciting violence. Those on the right who agreed with him benefited because they're grifters too. They fleece their flock. Taco does it all the time. Charlie Kirk is no different. And I know for a lot of people who are sitting there saying, well, I just don't think you should. I said, let's stop. Because everybody that begins this subject always has to sit there and say, I do not condone violence. in any kind. Let's just go ahead and say this right now. Nobody said it. Nobody wants it. Of course, nobody wishes it. Who in the blue would sit there and wish for something upon a human being? Who? Who would sit there and say, you know what? I hope that happens to you. Who in the world, from a journalistic standpoint, or just in general, unless you just really got some sort of grudge, but who, if you're in a position to where you're supposed to help people or influence people, are going to sit there and say, well, I'm glad he's dead, or I'm glad he's no longer with us. And I know a lot of people say, but look at all those people on social media. They're happy. They're celebrating. I'm not saying it's not right, but it amazes me out of all of it that someone's going to sit there and say, well, he's somebody's husband and he's somebody's father. Well, of course he is. And sympathies to his family. But remember when I said that your words will outlive you? Because your words are what people go by. When you're no longer here on this earth, your words are what people go by. Your recordings, if you're on video, if you're on audio, if you're on social media, all of that is basically telling your story. And I'm going to be quite honest, because I've said it in my Facebook post and I'll say it here. It's easy to advertise or sell the idea of a man leaving his family behind than it is to make a martyr out of somebody who's made a living off bigoted, racist quotes and controversies. It's a lot easier to sit there and say he was a loving husband or a father. It's a lot harder to sit there and say, well, he was just a bigot. He was a racist. He was a xenophobe. He was an extreme nationalist disguised as a Christian. Because that's what they hang on to. They hang on to this Christian ideology that just is so extreme, yet they talk about Muslims at the same time, wish they could have that type of rigorous, devout longevity. They talk about Muslims, but they wish they had that same level of devoutness. They wish they had that same level of rule. But that's what they're trying to do here. So, again, I know when folks are going to sit there and be like, well, he was a father. Yes. And again, sorrows and prayers, because they have no problem telling us that when it comes to our children being killed. They have no problem telling sorrows and prayers where kids are getting killed in schools, where kids are getting killed in churches, where Black people are getting killed in grocery stores, in churches, where LGBTQ plus people are being killed in their own nightclubs or on the side of the road. They have no problem saying sorrows and prayers, but that's it. And they move on. But it's amazing when it's one of their own, how quickly they want to sit there and point out, well, the left is radicalized, but the shooter wasn't left-leaning. Well, they always incite violence against us, yet you cannot find one video. And I challenge people, find one video where the left was calling for violence against the right. Did they say fight? Yes. Did they say protest? Yes. They say we are going to fight to make sure that we keep our democracy? Absolutely. But I guarantee for every barely one video you can find of extreme violence from the left, you'll find at least 100 times more of the right showing videos wanting violence. Even now, after Charlie Kirk, you have protests where it's saying white men fight back. Amazing. We're not too far off from the tiki torches and the white khaki pants that happened in the Carolinas. We're not too far from that. Remember Blood and Soil? Because they had no problem saying that with tiki torches marching. You had Nazis marching in my home state of Tennessee, specifically Nashville, untouched, because their freedoms were protected. The police protected them more than they protected the citizens. But it amazes me so when it comes to the right and something happens to them, oh, we must pay attention. Oh, we must take the morally obligated high ground. For what? Because yes, the man did not deserve that. But I've always also sat there and said, not only do your words outlive you, you cannot you cannot speak of hate, you cannot speak of aggression, you cannot speak of anything that is intended to harm someone else and expect peace. Like Malcolm X once said, that the chickens are coming to roost because it eventually come back home. Now, I'm not saying that. Now, again, I've always sat there and said, and people basically, well, you're saying that he causes upon himself. I am not saying that. I am saying you created the fire. You may have not been the one to start it, but you've had a hand in it. You've enjoyed everything that comes with it. You enjoyed the warmth. You enjoyed the glow. You enjoyed the fact that people can see it because that is something that you created. And you never thought at any time that that same fire can burn you because you thought you were untouchable. It is what it is. At the same time, folks are getting fired and under fire for their freedom of speech, but they think it's funny because the right had no problem with it. But apparently, people are losing their jobs.
Continues supporting after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and investigators say he was targeted. And today, the assistant dean of MTSU was fired for the comments she made after Charlie Kirk was killed. WSMV's Amber Jayantz joins us with more on the president's decision and reaction from students.
MTSU's president said this was a difficult decision to make, but he says the assistant dean's comments undermined the work and the mission of the institution, so he had to let her go. The assassination of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was all the talk on campus today.
It's been kind of the main subject of conversation at the moment.
That and the fallout of MTSU's assistant dean of students, Laura Sosh Lightsey, who was fired after a post she made on Facebook in response to Kirk's murder, saying, "Looks like old Charlie spoke his fate into existence. Hate begets hate. Zero sympathy."
I think saying that you have a lack of sympathy for something as horrible that what happened yesterday is just cold and heartless. I think it was the right move given her position.
But some students say the university's president went too far, firing the assistant dean.
If she said it to her students, that would be a different story entirely, but it was off of her office hours on her personal account, and it's her personal thoughts, and I don't think that the school has any business policing that sort of thing.
We spoke with Dr. Sidney McPhee, the president of MTSU, who says Sosh Lightsey's remarks crossed the line, forcing him to let her go.
It has caused and had the potential of causing significant reputational damage to the university. And having really an adverse effect on the credibility of our institution.
The president says this is also a lesson learned for everyone at the university that words matter, and everyone has to be held responsible for what they say.
And I'm quite comfortable with the decision that I made.
We did reach out to Laura Sosh Lightsey. So far, we have not received any comments, but once we do, we'll bring that to you.
So let's think about this for a second, folks, because I just want to go right here. I want to go right here for the simple fact of the matter. This was her comment. Looks like old Charlie spoke his fate into existence. Hate begets hate, zero sympathy. Now, seems like all she did was give her opinion. It wasn't hateful. It wasn't regretful. But a lot of people are going to stand and go, zero sympathy? You have zero sympathy for a person who was killed? Let me explain something to you folks. George Floyd was killed. Eric Gardner was killed. Breonna Taylor was killed. I can keep going down the list of people that were killed. Kids at Sandy Hook were killed. And you know what the crazy part about all those deaths are? I guarantee if you went back and looked, you'll find similar, I won't say accurately, but similar, where folks were like, zero sympathy. And it's amazing to me that not only those comments exist, but at the same time, the lack of outrage, except now when someone says they have zero sympathy for what happened to Charlie Kirk, now it's like, oh, you're horrible, you're heartless. No. Because here's the thing. If you have empathy, which again, if you have empathy, you're going to love the next thing I'm going to show momentarily. If you have empathy, cool. If you feel for other human beings on this earth, cool. If you don't, that's fine. You're only seen, judged, and heartless because, number one, people will never understand anybody. I mean, for all those that call folks who have zero sympathy heartless, or, you just don't care. No, it's the fact that it's a herd mentality. It's okay that you may not have certain feelings towards somebody. It's okay. We're all human. But if a group of people is like, oh, I'm so devastated this happened to this man. And out of those 19 people, one person goes, that one person shouldn't be seen as an outcast. He's only doing the same thing you're doing. He's just on the opposite side of it. But why are we talking about that? We're talking about that because, well, number one, this woman got fired because she went on her social media. She didn't do it in front of a class. She didn't do it on company. She didn't do it on company equipment. I'm sorry. She didn't do it on school equipment. She did this on her own time. And the only reason that I wish this was said, the only reason was because this dumpster fire of a senator, Marsha Blackburn, sat there and said on the Dark Place, this person should be ashamed of their post. She should be removed from her position at MTSU. Even went so far as to make sure that not only did they go to her Facebook, which again is there, has everything down there, including her LinkedIn information, and took it upon herself to sit there and say, well, I think this person needs to be fired. And then moments later, you see the president of MTSU come forward and say, well, you just got to be careful of how you word things. No. What happened was Marsha Blackburn got in your ear. And then you thought about it. Oh, Harvard's having a hard time right now because of what's going on with Taco. I don't want the same thing to happen to MTSU. That could be my job. So let me go ahead and do the easiest thing and let her go, and then make up a BS excuse about the fact that you trampled on her First Amendment rights. It's her First Amendment rights. Now, again, with the First Amendment, you are allowed to say whatever it is you want to say. You are not absolved from the actions of what you say. And what she said was honestly the most really not as bad comment out there about this person as you can find. There are so many worse things out there that have been said about Mr. Kirk, really and truly. But in her case, all she said was, I have zero sympathy. So her cardinal sin is that she had no sympathy toward this man. I don't know Charlie Kirk that well, and I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for him. Do I feel for his children? Yes, his children will grow up without a father. Do I feel for her? Do I feel for his wife? Yes, she is now a widow. Do I have any sympathy for Charlie Kirk? No, because I've heard his words. I've heard his rhetoric. I've heard his shtick. And it never ceases to amaze me that all these people across social media are all saying, well, pray for Charlie Kirk's family. Okay, well, pray for Melissa or Mark Hartman's family. How about that? How about pray for the same ones? I mean, if it's all equal, right? Because they basically face the same thing. And at the same doggone time, it is amazing how one person got fired for their response. Right? Yet this guy, seen right here, Mike Lee, a Utah Republican senator, sat there and said to the deaths of Melissa Horton and her husband, let's not forget, it's not too far away that he sat there and said, on a post on Twitter, this is what happens when Marxists don't get their way. And then attached a picture of the shooter at the time wearing a latex face mask. And all he said was, this is what happens when Marxists get their way. And you know what the crazy part about that was? That it was appalled, that it was disgusting. He got called out from all sides. He's still employed. He's still a senator. All he did was delete the tweet. Deleted it. But that's what they do. See, it's amazing how on the right side, when one of theirs goes down, oh, they want vengeance, they want this, they want that, especially if they can tie it to a face, because they need a villain. They need a bad guy, because that's their shtick. Their shtick is basically the 1950s. Oh, good guy, believing themselves as good guys, all selfish and righteous, coded in Christianity when it's really nationalism and bigotry. At the same time, their way is the right way. Everybody should follow them, for they are leaders in family, faith, and religion. That's what they believe. But it's nationalism delusion. Because again, I've shown you literally 4 minutes of Taco inciting violence. I dare anybody to show me the same on the left. Show me where Madam Vice President Harris did the same thing. Show me where Biden did the same thing. Show me Clinton. Show me Hillary Clinton. Show me Bill Clinton. Show me Barack Obama. Hell, even show me George Bush 1.0 or 2.0. It is amazing that the narrative right now is that a lot of people are saying, well, there's too much, it's too extreme. No, it's one side of the seesaw. It's one side of the seesaw touching the ground, while blaming the other side, saying that, hey, you're not big enough to push me up in the air. That is all it. It's like saying we didn't do this while literally holding the knife. That's what the right is doing, and it amazes me so. And I will say this. Let me also say this. You can have sympathy for Charlie Kirk. Nothing wrong with that. We're human. Because what we're about to go through for the next few minutes is his words. And again, I'm going to reiterate this again, like I said at the beginning of this podcast. Your words will outlive you. Charlie Kirk, I present his words and his words alone. And we'll start what he believes about the LGBTQ plus community.
Often be discussed.
Puberty is not the problem. Puberty is the solution to the trans issue.
Charlie would often debate queer college students on the topic of being transgender, making his stance explicitly clear.
You're lying to yourself and lying to other people that you could become something other than what you are born.
He has also been vocal about his disagreement with same-sex marriage.
I believe marriage is between one man and one woman.
Charlie's views extended to LGBTQ plus rights.
We must ban trans-affirming care the entire country. I think that monogamous heterosexual marriage should be a prerequisite to adoption.
Following Charlie's shooting, 2 people were arrested and later released. At present, no other suspects have been arrested, and the Department of Public...
So I'll stop it right there, because that's just the LGBTQ. He doesn't believe they exist. He believes that heterosexual marriage should be a prerequisite for adoption. He doesn't believe in same-sex marriages. And that's one. Let me go to another where literally someone decided to put a cut together of the more controversial things that he said. But again, in his own words.
Are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. But it's the church. We must first look at ourselves as the reason why this is happening. The cancer of transgenderism, which is from the pit of hell.
Donald Trump gone too far? Well, I can nitpick at how vague that question is. What is too far exactly? Are his tweets too long?
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. the spiritual battle is coming to the West. And the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
Is that whether it be, this is going to be controversial and I don't care, whether it be the plantation or whether it be government benefits,
Love you,
that
Queen.
the philosophy of the American left is to keep black Americans under their control.
But it's the church. We must first look at ourselves as the reason why this is happening. The cancer of transgenderism, which is from the pit of hell, spreads as a virus throughout our nation and our land, largely because pastors and Christians have been afraid to correct error with truth or contest in the public arena. I'm starting to see that change. And you know what's so amazing is that most of the kids that tend to attend our events, by the way, tomorrow at UCLA, we can't find a room big enough to fit all the students that want to attend our speech at UCLA tomorrow.
Again, where do I start? Where do I start? Because if you haven't noticed, he was okay with gun deaths. He was okay with gun deaths, but as long as the Second Amendment, our rights shall not be infringed upon. And it was okay with a few gun deaths every year. He was okay with literally and figuratively talking about the left, Islam and Muslims, and saying, really condemning Muslims and putting over, again, nationalist Christian as the overall guiding light for Western civilization and apparently the world. He had no problem citing about transgenders and things of that nature. And I always find it funny that whenever the right talk about transgenders and things of that nature, I wait. They're either caught with a mistress, caught with an LGBTQ person, or have a child out of wedlock, or all the above. The party of family values is always caught with their hand in the cookie jar. But like I said, his own words. Remember empathy? I kept bringing up the fact that some people didn't like that some people just did not have empathy for Charlie Kirk's death. Well, I find it interesting that this one keeps coming back up because, like I said, his own words.
Instead, it is to say you're actually not in pain. So let's just very short clip. Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age term that does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy, I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in the word empathy. He believes in sympathy, but not empathy. And I find it so ironic that those who are empathetic toward him are the ones that, are trying to go after other people. It's like, how do you not feel bad? It could have been anybody else. Yet the person they feel bad for doesn't believe in it. Says it's a made-up word. Kind of find that really interesting. What I also find interesting, again, in his own words, that, again, built the fire that burned him.
blasting controversial views like Democrat women want to die alone without children and indoctrinating 5-year-old kindergartners that they can be something other than a boy or a girl is child abuse and should be illegal. And
yeah, that part. Again, his words. Democrat women want to die alone without children. Indoctrinating 5-year-old kindergartners that they can be something other than a boy or a girl is child abuse and should be illegal. Now, again, this is around the time of the Drag Queen Story Hour. We covered that here on the show, where, again, it's great that regardless of who is reading to your children, are your children actually picking up? Because a child who reads more statistically does well in school, does better in school than a child that doesn't. And I've always sat there and said it best, and I'll say it again for all those that need to hear it. I will trust my children with a drag queen reading them a story in a library than I will trust a person of God at a church with them. Yes, I said it. Because too many times we see more stories of so-called men of faith being caught in very questionable situations or just flat out scandalous headlines. And I always say the same thing. I never see a drag queen having the same problem. But again, it's the right. But I know a lot of people going, well, Will, it's the right. That doesn't always mean anything. Well, here's my personal favorite. Charlie Kirk talking about black women and saying that you don't have the processing power to be taken seriously. But he didn't say that. Yeah, he did.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Do I even need to add more to that? Do I even need to? Do I even need to even go into how low that is? He said this in full confidence to black women. He said this in full confidence to not just some black women, but to all black women. You don't have the processing power to be taken seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot. How very nationalist of you. And even more so, I even sat there and said it. Amazing how he has the confidence to say something and does not think he cannot be touched. And this goes back to what I said about the First Amendment. You can say whatever it is that you want to say. You are not absolved of the consequences of your actions. And I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, so you're saying that his rhetoric, his bigotry, his all this led to his demise? You can't help but sit there and think in some way or form, like I said about the fire analogy. You helped build the fire, and you expected not to get burned by it. Again, the evidence speaks for itself. But again, I'm not done. I'm not done because I want to present the man as he is, because he's not here to speak for himself, but his words are. And what he said about Martin Luther King really, really should be studied for someone that has a full amount of audacity.
Where MLK, in my personal opinion and based on every objective analysis, he actually gave us more race focus and less emphasis on character and conduct. Because here we are 60 years later. Do we talk about race less or more in the last couple of decades? I'm not only blaming MLK for this, but his core driving philosophy was not about a colorblind society. That is a line in one of his speeches. He would actually be closer to a race Marxist almost akin to a DEI type philosopher if you go deep into his writings, especially later in his life. So, and I think we as conservatives and Christians must reconsider some of the mythologies and some of the icons and the symbols that we hold up, especially as we try to reorient ourselves in a broken culture.
Again, audacity. Audacity to sit there and say, well, he was closer to being a Marxist. And honestly, because of him, we talk about race more than we did back then. He may have not been born at the time of the civil rights era, but I think if not some, but everybody born around that civil rights era would like to have a word. Race wasn't talked about because Jim Crow laws were in place. People had to dang near risk their lives to vote. You had segregation. Separate but equal ran the South. At the same time, you still had massive disparities in wage, education, housing, things of that nature. Of course, race wasn't talked about at that time because what white supremacists wanted, they accomplished already. The reason why we're talking about race now is that you still have those very same white supremacists trying to instill back what happened pre-1960s. At the same time, he tries to spin this whole thing of, well, because of MLK, that's the reason why we have DEI initiatives. No, we had to have affirmative action because the actual playing field has always been white. And whenever it is, the thing about it is, I love how some who are nationalists, like the former Mr. Kirk, believe there's nothing wrong in what they're saying. They believe they're speaking from facts. No, you're speaking from a history of oppression, and your white privilege gives you the audacity to believe that you're right. That's the problem. Even more so, that again, we're just going to keep on going. Because remember this in Jubilee, where he decided to go against 25 quote unquote woke students, but really they're liberal college students. And this came up about one of his claims, where he says abortion is murder and should be illegal. And this is the conversation he has with a woman. We're just going to cover this part.
How are you? Nice to see you. So I just have one question. There's in any case, you don't think there's any case where abortion should be legal?
There's a very, very rare couple cases.
Okay, so you do think that
a
a couple cases it is legal?
If cesarean section is not going to save the mother's life, and the mother's life is actually at risk, which is debated amongst growing numbers of OBGYNs,
Okay.
that is the only case where abortion should be
Do you
allowed.
think there should-
But people say it is a growing consensus in the pro-life world that abortion is never medically necessary.
Okay. So if you had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped and she was going to give birth and she would and she was going to give birth and she was going to live, would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens
Calm
to
down.
many
The
people.
answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So that's insane.
But let me tell you why. No, hold on. Let me ask you a question. There's two ultrasounds I have. One is a baby conceived in, one is a baby conceived by a loving couple. Which one is which?
Your daughter was hopefully conceived by a somewhat loving couple.
Conceived by? Tell me which one was conceived by.
You don't know.
Exactly, because it's all human rights
But
and it's all
that
human beings.
doesn't matter.
So
It's about your daughter who has to give
no.
birth to it and is going to be tortured by that
Hold
for
on
the
a second.
rest of her
You-
life.
you are
That's
not-
going to take away every
Hold on a
freedom
second.
she's ever going to have.
Hold on.
That's going to
Every
ruin
freedom.
her life. She's going
You
to
know
grow
what?
up and she's going to be
Abortion is not a
attached to another
victimless
thing.
crime. The point is how you were conceived is irrelevant. What human rights you get.
But
hold on one second. If a person conceived in walks down the side of the street, it's not like they don't get First Amendment rights or Second Amendment rights.
It's
or
not
Fourth
about
Amendment
that
rights.
person.
The worst thing to do to the daughter is to then say, "Hey, we're going to go murder the being inside of you."
They wouldn't even know. Listen.
They wouldn't know.
Listen.
But wouldn't it be a better story to say something evil happened and we do something good in the face of evil instead of saying we're going to do evil and then murder the being because we're going to pander to the evil? No. What makes the West great is that we do good after evil, not evil after evil.
It's not about the being in the cells.
No,
It's not about. No. I'm
I know.
speaking.
We're
No,
both-
I'm speaking.
we're both-
No, I'm
we're both
speaking.
clumps
No,
of cells.
I'm speaking. No,
We're
I'm
both
speaking.
clumps
No,
of
I'm
cells,
speaking.
okay?
No, I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking.
Want to say it one more time?
No, I'm speaking.
Got it.
Thank you. So it's not, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the person. I'm talking about the person who is dealing with the pregnancy. I am not talking about the cells. I don't care. No, listen.
See, the problem is he's already made his point. And what I mean by he made his point is that he got her so flustered based off the one question she wanted to ask was that if your 10-year-old daughter and got pregnant off rape, would you allow her to basically carry the baby to term and give birth? He says yes. Now, I have sat there and said many a times on the subject of abortion that it's always the woman's choice. It's her choice because it's her body and the consequences go with it. A man should not have a say. A group of people should not have a say in what a woman does with her body. But yet, it is 2025. Roe versus Wade has been overturned. Doctors who can't even give basic care to women either have to move forward or close their practice down out of fear of prosecution or in jail. And we now have several states that have either banned abortion or flat out made it a felony with attempted murder charges. And yet this man, even though it's Jubilee, but this man turned around and sat there and said, yes, she'll carry the baby to term. And every woman around him shocked. Like, you really would do that to your own daughter, which goes to show you, which it's amazing how these Christian nationalists are no different from the devout Muslims they condemn. They are really no different. They actually envy them in some areas. But it amazes me so that he doesn't debate. He simply says his point, and then he frustrates you, and then he frustrates somebody to the point to where now they have to yell and, get their point across, things of that nature. That's what they do, what he did. And so that's why the debate was lost, because he wasn't trying to debate. He was trying to get his point across. He was going for shock factor, and at the same time, he succeeded and basically riled the other person out of the debate. But his words. So we've covered, for all those keeping score, we've covered LGBTQ, women's rights, black people, black women that he says do not have the processing power to basically take a white man's slot without affirmative action. I only wonder what else he would say when he's back on his home base, when he's back on the Republican safe space of Fox News. Because when I say some things were said, some things were said. So
Turning Point USA,
let's just go
Charlie,
to it.
There's some good news here, clearly, with the conservative young male voters and folks. But what is going on with women and not wanting to prioritize family?
Yeah, this is a pattern that I've seen time and time on these college campuses where young men are ordering their life correctly. They want to first and foremost have children, get married, and then have a nice job or to be able to travel. If you look deeper into this data, it's completely consistent with other data we've seen the last couple of years. Young women, they don't value having children. And this is one of the reasons why we are seeing a fertility collapse in the West. We're seeing less and less young people get married. We're seeing more and more people go into their 30s to have children. Now, mind you, this is starting to change the last 18 months especially. We are seeing a little bit of a turning of the corner, if you will, as the country is starting to get more into traditionalism and young people are starting to go back to church. But if you play out the liberal worldview, the Kamala Harris worldview, to its furthest possible logical point, you have a country with literally no future. When you play out the logical endpoint of President Trump's agenda of where young men voted for him, you have one of lots of children, increasing communities, and you also don't have a need then for mass immigration. And this all kind of ties together. Trump voters, young men, they want family, children, and legacy. Young women who voted for Kamala Harris, they want careerism, consumerism, and loneliness. That is a dramatic divide that is going to play out in our politics for the years to come.
Yep. And that's what he said. And I just, again, you cannot sit there and tell me otherwise, guys, that this makes sense. You can't sit there and tell me that from what he said, that, again, his thoughts on women, his thoughts on black women, his thoughts on LGBTQ, his thoughts on transgenders, his thoughts on gun violence, these are all his thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. His own freaking words. Even sitting there, what kills me is, even as he talked to Laura Ingraham, young women, they don't value having children. Trump voters, young men, they want family, children, and legacy. Young women who voted for Kamala Harris want careerism, consumerism, and loneliness. And again, he even talked, and I hate to say this too, because again, Taylor Swift, he sat there and said, reject feminism, submit to your husband. Taylor, you're not in charge. And the thing that kills me about all this is, that's just, again, the tip of the iceberg. His whole thing about endorsing welfare queen Netanyahu against Gaza, saying Gaza is the evil that needs to be destroyed. He even his whole thing of conspiracy theories, keep in mind, was literally talking about the China virus before we found out it was coronavirus, before we found out about COVID-19, was right along with Taco spreading misinformation about vaccine. He compared the vaccine requirements at the time to apartheid that happened in South Africa. And then it was the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, where undocumented immigrants are coming to the U.S. to replace white Americans and their population decline in the U.S., which, again, was just in February of last year. That was debunked. But this is the part that I'm getting at, folks. These are his own words. His own words. I'll keep going. And I'll keep going before we get to the trash pandas. He even said, and again, for all those that think that I'm making this up, these are actual quotes that he said. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. If you're an MBA, pot smoking, black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine? Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. If I'm dealing with someone in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? And then, of course, the one that I showed you in the IG post. If we would have said that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, and Sheila Jackson and Johnny Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. Now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. There are mountains of things this man has said. But again, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Because he's talking about qualifications going back to DEI, when that was first in danger of being thrown out, when the affirmative action of college acceptance of affirmative action was going to be thrown out. If you're an MBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than the United States Marine? He's talking about Brittany Griner, who was caught in Russia with weed, was caught with cannabis, and of course spent some time in a Russian prison until she was eventually released. No different than the United States Marine that was actually caught, but was also eventually released months later, saying that do you get treated better than the United States Marine? Sir, your problem is with the State Department. It's not with Brittany Griner. And of course, happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. That's a fact. No, you're speaking of paranoia and Fox News narrative talking points. And then going back to the black woman. If I'm dealing with someone in customer services, moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? The fact that you've already started the sentence off with the moronic black woman tells us everything that we know how you view people of color. And what kills me all about this, and like I said, we can keep going. And I'm not trying to make this a long-standing point. I'm just saying we could keep going. I mean, going. He sit there and says, reject. I mean, here we go. I mean, we need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately. And I can keep, guys, going. America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years, and we dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever. We should be unafraid to do that. He said it's on his own show. The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white. Also said on his show. America has freedom of religion. Of course, we should be frank. Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America. Guys, I am just saying, that's just off his show. Not things that he said on Fox News, not things they said at Turning Point conventions. These are his words. And like I said, your words outlive you. Your words define you. And no matter of whitewashing, which they're currently trying to do right now, they're trying to whitewash everything and raise him up as a person who was slain for just speaking his mind. Here lies Saint Charlie Kirk. And folks are doing prayer vigils, monuments, and things of that nature. You have the grifters, Candace Owens coming out. He was my friend. The grifters come out to pick the carcass. And all the while, folks who don't care or rather move on are being called cold, heartless, when they shouldn't be. For the simple fact of the matter is, it is completely okay not to feel anything about this man that you have no attachment to. It's completely okay. But what is not okay is that the trash pandas have come out. And by trash pandas, I say trash pandas because I can't say the one, but I will say it starts with an R, ends with an N, and you can pretty much Wheel of Fortune the rest of it. But Stephen A. Smith and Officer Tate, two guys who remind me of Jason Whitlock so much because they love pandering to napkins. And in this case, Stephen A. wasted no time, and Officer Tate wasted no time in sharing this video.
Stephen A. Smith, I have to say this. I got mad respect for Stephen A. Smith. And this is, I think, why we've seen Stephen A. Smith come along and why I just been gaining more and more respect for Stephen A. Smith, even though we don't agree with everything. But a rational, logical person that have the courage to come out in public and say what is real. Now, watch Stephen A. Smith on this clip about Charlie Kirk, and it literally inspired me. I'm going to have Stephen A. on the show to talk about this because people that may not agree with everything at this point should come together. Nick says something I think is incredibly important. It's not about black or white anymore. It's not about right or left. It's about decent folk and lunatics. What side are you on? So let's roll this clip of Stephen A. Smith giving his statement about the Charlie Kirk incident. Roll the clip.
I'm a black man born in America. I know what problems that exist in this country. But I also know there's far more good people than there are bad people in this country, regardless of who you are, what your ethnic background is. White, black, Hispanic, and beyond. I'm in a studio here in Las Vegas, and I'm looking outside, and I see people looking at me and smiling and saying, "What's up, Stephen A?" They don't look anything like me. And I don't care, because they're showing me love, and I'm showing love right back to them. At some point in time, we got to recognize, can't just speak about it. Can't just give lip service to when such a vile act takes place. And we're going to give lip service to the tragedy of the moment. And then within 24 hours, we move on with our lives like nothing happened. Something did happen. Don't care what his political beliefs were. I don't care what he felt. I care about the fact that a man was gunned down in front of two of his children who are 5 years of age or less. That he's dead at the age of 31. That his wife is a widow. That his children are fatherless. Because his ideas and his beliefs differed from somebody else, apparently. And then I'm going online and I'm seeing people celebrating it. Shame. Shame on you. Props to the New York Yankees organization last night for having a moment of silence. If you're a left winger instead of a right winger, you might not have liked that. You're missing the point. This man was shot and killed from 200 yards away in front of his wife and children, and thousands of onlookers who had come to see him, Mr. Charlie Kirk, who had been going from campus to campus, simply debating his ideas against those who might differ from him. That's all. And his life was taken. He's gone at 31, just because he expressed thoughts that differed from somebody else, apparently. And some might blame it because, oh my God, he's friends with the president. And they may not be a Donald Trump supporter. I'm saying bump all that. He's a human being living in the United States of America. This is America. We're not supposed to condone stuff like this. We're not supposed to say it's okay. I don't give a damn who you are, black, white, or anything in between. You're a human being. That's your fellow man and fellow woman out there. That's your fellow brother and fellow sister out there. You got no business thinking like that. And you damn sure have no business doing something as heinous as that shooter who's still on a loose, by the way. So I applaud the New York Yankees for having a moment of silence. I hope the FBI and law enforcement catch this individual.
So I gotta stop right there because they pretty much say this is actually the recording before they actually apprehended him. But Stephen A, how do we do this? But let me before I do that, I do gotta let this other trash panda finish his thought.
Amanda Seals. I made a video about Amanda Seals. Amanda Seals is celebrating it and looking like a complete idiot. And in her comment section, you got hundreds and hundreds of comments of celebrating, saying she ain't wrong. She ain't wrong. People with blue check marks, people who are celebrities. She ain't wrong. Liking it, not commenting, but liking it. That's the difference between decent people, Stephen A, me, others, y'all, lunatics. And it's unfortunate that these people act this way, but it bothers me. And I'm happy that Stephen A said something. And I'm proud of Stephen A for saying something because he's going to get some backlash. Some. I don't think a lot. You got to be a lunatic to give him backlash over this. But I do appreciate him saying something. Hopefully encourage more people to do the same. I love you guys.
So, yeah. So here's the thing. First off, Stephen A. Smith starting to look about Stephen A. Smith, number one, just go bald, sir, because that hairline goes any farther back, he's gonna be Sherman Hemsley. Number two, stop eating white privilege and start not to agree with your body. And Officer Tate, which I have already said many times on here, he is between him and the Hodge twins, they're grifters. They're in the Kenneth Owens area to me. They're like, they want to sit there and show the napkins. We emulate with you too. We feel what you do. You are the house Negroes trying to sit there and tell the field Negroes what Massa says. And Stephen A. long since bought into that because it is amazing to me how he talks about we shouldn't be inciting violence, things of this nature, where he has seen Taco talk for years, and I have yet to see him call him out. And I don't expect Officer Tate to call anybody out, Officer Tatum to call anybody out, because that would mess with his money. The man's got nearly 4 million followers on YouTube. It'll mess with his money. So what do? They say all the things that basically keep the money flowing. Stephen A's got $100 million deal with ESPN. Officer Tatum gets money off YouTube and various other businesses. They don't want to mess with the church's money. So what do? Like a lot of people, they'll turn around and be like, oh, we feel so sorry for this and that. We need to come together. He was human. He was a father. Malcolm X was a father. He was gunned down by multiple gunmen in front of his wife and child, shot 21 times. I didn't see the same type of outpouring from white folks when he got assassinated. I didn't see the same outpouring of white folks when Ruby D was going to class, when she was going to be the first child to go to first child to integrate into a school in the South. I didn't see any sympathy for her, for the Freedom Riders, for the Civil Rights Movement, for Black Lives Matter. I didn't see anything. Even more so, I didn't see the same type of outpouring for Democratic politician Horton and her husband. But you know the funny part about all this is, it is amazing when it comes to the right. When they're not a victim, they have no problem being funny, being a dick, saying hateful things. They have no problem. But when they're the victim, oh, how things change when they're the victim, because it's scary. It's scary when the victim looks like you. It's scary when the victim's not the big bad boogeyman that you made him out to be. And this is why we keep saying they'll never understand it until it affects them. They'll never understand it. But they'll sit there, much like Charlie Kirk, will sit there and say all the things with the audacity that the First Amendment can give you, with the lack of accountability, because our current Taco does not have any accountability. He loves to point the finger. He loves to be the bully. But when it comes to accountability, he dodges it like he dodges his ex-wives and court cases and fines and lawsuits. And even more so, that, again, for all those that are just wondering what stokes the fire, what happens when you stoke the fire, and what happens on the other side. Not that they'll sit there and call you out, not that they'll attack you where they are. They'll protest like this.
Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time!
It's amazing. Amazing how it's no violence. Amazing how all they did was simply simply voice the truth. And that's the thing. And that's the basis that what I take out of this, guys. That in his own words, Charlie Kirk is going to have to, and again, depending on what he believes, where he ends up, I'm not saying may he find peace, but may he reap what he sows. Because there's the thing, whether you believe in religion or not, every action has an opposite but equal reaction. If you create this fire, you stoke this fire, and instead of putting it out, you stoke it because you benefit from it. And if you benefit from it, then you feel like you can't be touched by it. And then once it does touch you, now you're all shocked, not realizing it's fire. It goes after everybody, including the person who started it. So I'm sorry. I am sorry, not sorry, that I don't feel a certain way for Mr. Kirk. I mean, condolences to his wife and child. But we've seen many other instances out there where Black men, people of color, women were all harmed, and the right was silent. Sandy Hook happened, the right was silent, except when it came to gun rights. Pulse nightclub, the right was silent, except when it comes to gun rights. Mass shootings with people of color in grocery stores, the right said thoughts and prayers. But when it came to gun rights, oh, we don't need to change a thing. That's just an isolated incident. And Charlie Kirk made a career out of being a Christian nationalist who was also racist, also a bigot, had no problem saying that women should be subservient to their husbands, had no problem saying black women do not have the thought processing power equal that of a white man. He had no problem saying that transgenders are a disease. He had no problem saying that same-sex parents should not adopt because you had to be a heterosexual couple, he believed, as a prerequisite. We could go down the line with everything that man said. And at the end of the day, when you take his words, can you really sit there and say he was a martyr? Or can you say that it's just an example of the environment of the jungle he created? And it's not just him. Taco and many others created this hostile ass jungle and try to sit there and say, well, this is out of reaction to a boogeyman that doesn't exist. Oh, they will start it. Who the crap is they? Oh, that's right. Your imaginary boogeyman. And once that boogie, and here's the thing about that imaginary boogeyman. The imaginary boogeyman doesn't exist until the actual person, until the actual monster comes out of your shadow, looks you in the face, and says, boo. So no. In conclusion, I don't feel bad for Charlie Kirk. His words tell his story. Did the action that happened to him shouldn't have happened to him? No. It shouldn't have happened. That man did not deserve, nobody deserves that type of demise. Nobody. But did he create the environment to which that demise may have come from? Yeah. What you put out in the world will come back to you. Or, as one former MTSU employee said, you reap what you sow. That being said, guys, usually we do have a feel-good moment here, but honestly, the feel-good moment out of all this is, simply put, the right needs to learn that they have a problem. That's it. I don't have a feel-good. I wish I had a feel-good segment out of this transition, but the right need to figure out that they have an internal problem, that there is no boogeyman. Nobody is under the bed and nobody's in the closet ready to come get you. The boogeyman that you're so scared of is the same person that wears your merch, wears your hats, retweets what you say, shares and posts, and defends you in front of strangers, and you don't even know the guy. But like I said, it's his own words. And by his own words, may or may not have led to a part in his demise. A demise that nobody asked for, but at the same time, you stoke the fire. But I would say this as far as a feel-good segment, be kinder. Be kinder. Be nicer. Debate facts, not emotions. Debate the numbers, not narratives. And if the narratives don't agree with you, then maybe it's time to start thinking differently, because you could have been wrong this entire time. But before I do get out of here, guys, I do want to do some shout outs and shameless plugging, as I always do here, because I do thank everybody that watched, that liked, that let people know this is up. I certainly appreciate that. I do also want to shout out Always Press Record TV. Why? Because How the Frack can be seen there. You can definitely check them out on the Roku channel or Amazon Fire TV app at Always Press Record at APR TV, along with other shows. Definitely download it and enjoy it. We would appreciate it. Also, BlurStation.com. I've talked about this site for a long time, guys. A site that has entertainment for us, by us, to enjoy. Movies, television shows, you name it, they have it. Definitely check out BlurStation.com. $10.99 a month to join, and BlurStation can be streamed on all devices. Also, runforoffice.org. I keep telling you guys, if you feel the need to serve, whether local or nationally, sites like this can help you as far as typing the address, seeing how you can get your name on the ballot, running, and hopefully being a part of the change that we do need so badly in this country. But definitely check out runforoffice.org. And as always, guys, I always want to remind you, the midterms are next year. Democrats, if they get their shit together, could probably pull it off. But as of the moment, we need to do our parts, because trust me, the Republicans are trying to change the voting laws. They're trying to change how you vote. They're trying to get rid of mail-in voting. Be up to date on your identification. Get your get everything that you need to know. Definitely check your local library definitely for assistance in what you need to have when you go vote to the polls, and be at the ready. Also take advantage of early voting once it does become available. At the same time, guys, don't doom scroll. Protect your peace. Check in on your friends. Call or text. Go outside, enjoy the sun. Summer's still going to be around for a while, so please hydrate. At the same time, guys, take this lesson from Charlie Kirk. Your words will outlive you. It's what you do with those words will determine how people remember you. Will you be remembered as someone who cared, or remember as somebody who hated, or somebody who thought they were righteous, but really they were just a bigot disguised as a nationalist playing a religious man? That's all I'm saying. But that being said, guys, last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing one day a Black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up on our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll get through this. And we will get through this. Have a good weekend, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.